Guys, welcome back, and as you can see, I've had a new place for me to um, take some videos, do some review about rigs, but just a small little place. And today we're gonna talk about this Gspeed build right here. Okay, it's something similar. If you guys have checked out my previous video, the Trx4 swap to the Gspeed chassis, this is something similar but with a different setup, different shocks, different electronics, and also some parts are still on the way. And as you can see, my SCX-3 Gladiator is sitting in the garage right there. So we're not gonna talk about a lot on how did I do it, but I'm gonna show you guys some close-up views on the transmission, because some of my friends requested that to get some more clearer and near shots on the transmission. So let's get to it. Okay, so I'm gonna help my camera right here, and the color here is a Tamiya red, and also with a black front part bonnet right here, and the front grille, and also the rear part right here. And I cut this out with a knife to clear the shock towers and everything, so it looks nicer. Okay, so this body is the Team C Samurai body, and I cut off a lot of the fenders to clear the big tires. We're gonna talk about the tires later, and I'm gonna show you guys the inside. Let's get the body removed. Okay, so let's talk about the electronics. The new Copperhead 10 from Castle Creations, Three Brothers RC G14 direct powered servo, and also the new yellow jacket. This one is in 2000 kV. Okay, so the shocks that we're using is the Vanquish Incision 80mm shocks, modded with the lossy mini T springs. For the front, we're using the soft spring, and the rear is the hard spring. Okay, and I'm gonna give you guys a close-up look on the shock cups. It's actually a cheap mod. As you can see, that's a 5mm nut. Cut off the original plastic flange inside, and I put a shock oil ring inside, so it stays onto the shaft and it doesn't wobble. A cheap mod. And then the front, I didn't do the pen spring mod because it's already low enough. As you can see, there's no play here, but it's gonna keep the rig planted on the ground when going up hills. As you can see, the stands here. Okay, and for the battery, I'm just using a Velcro strap. As you can see, it's very stick onto there. Okay, let me remove that. And as you can see, guys, I only mounted 2 screws on the transmission to the skid plate and use a few spacers. And I think this part right here I use 15mm. For this one, I think it's only 5mm spacer. Okay, and a few has been asking me, why is this part it's like there's a gap between the skid plate and the transmission. It doesn't matter, and because this part right here is already sitting on the skid plate, and also the rear part of the transmission here is already also sitting on the skid plate, so it's very solid with only 2 screws. As you can see, it is very solid in there. There's no movement, and this time I didn't make a bracket for this one. If you guys remember the previous video, I made a bracket here to hold the transmission, but this time I didn't. I only used 2 screws here, and I moved the transmission to the rear a little bit, because just in case if in the future you want to use a bigger motor or something, we're not sure. Okay, so I move it to the rear a little bit, so this part right here sits more on the skid plate, so it holds on very tight with only 2 screws. And I didn't drill it all the way to the skid, but I drill it almost to the end, but then I didn't. I tapped the holes so that the screw can just screw it inside to the skid plate. And he's still using the original drive shafts. Okay, so because I moved the transmission to the rear a little bit, so I had to switch one of the drive shaft from the rear to the front and the front to the rear, because the length, let me see, okay, as you can see, this one is longer, this one shorter, so I moved the longer one to the front and the shorter one to the back, because of the transmission is now more mounted to the rear a little, but I don't think it doesn't affect anything. And the ESC receiver and also the batteries are mounted on the sides, on the sliders. And these are the original temporary Trx4 links for this kit right here. I don't know if you can see, but I unscrewed the rod ends out, I think a lot, because before this, if I didn't, it's only 300mm wheelbase, that's very short, and then I unscrew it till it reaches 12.3 inch, that is 313mm wheelbase. And also, as you can see there, this is a temporary stainless steel link that I'm using, because of the original short one cannot be used because it's too short. Still waiting on the hardcore RC stainless steel links. Okay, and there it is. So the tires he's using is the Trx4, is made in China. It's something similar to the Maxxis tread pedals, but the lugs are like high and low, so I think it gives you more traction. And as you can see, the tires are very soft and the side walls are aggressive, and they are very aggressive tires. So that's all for this build. I don't think there's much to talk about it, because we're still waiting on the hardcore RC links, and this build is done. So if you guys think this video is helpful, please help me like my video. If you have any question, you can ask me in the comments, and also subscribe to my channel for more videos in the future.